Beautiful people, what's going on? Welcome back to the B.R.U.H podcast, where we talk Christian manhood, purity, and the intermingling of faith and pop culture. Tonight we have a special one for you. We have a special guest, and I'll get to him soon. But again, this is season 2, where we've been talking about loving God, spreading truth. Loving God, loving people, and spreading truth. And so this episode tonight, like I said, is special, and it's called How a Leader Loves. And so tonight we decided to bring on one of my most favorite people in this world, Courtney McBath. He's a senior founding pastor at Calvary Revival Church and has been for over 30 years. He also serves as the founder and CEO of Courtney McBath Ministries, Calvary Leaders Network, president at Virginia Bible College. I mean, the list just goes on and on. And we're just really thankful to have him here tonight. And so, without further ado, I just want to ask you a simple question, Bishop, before we get any further. How you doing?
Man? I'm good. I'm with y'all. So I can't be doing any better. And we're 3 great men of God, and you guys are holding it down. And you all are my retirement plan. So I know I get to quit one day. I can chill because y'all gonna take this thing where it needs to go. So I'm looking at y'all. I'm a real happy guy right now.
Wonderful. So, like I said, tonight we're talking about how a leader loves, and I don't think there's a better example like currently in my life. I'm sure Corey would stand on that, and Neil is just getting to know you, so he might have some competition after the night. But let's go ahead and jump into it, and Corey's going ahead and pitch the first question, and we can chew on that a little bit.
Yeah, let me start this. I'm gonna start it off with this first question. So, as Andre mentioned in your bio, Bishop, you've been pastoring for over 30 years now. Could you share with us how important it is for leaders to lead with love?
Well, this is very interesting that y'all asked me this question because I'm actually working on a book about leading with love. Because I have discovered that people don't like mean leaders. And people don't really, in a healthy way, they don't follow mean leaders, unkind, resentful leaders. And for me, it is absolutely critical because there's only one thing that Jesus said that they'll know you're my disciples by, and it wasn't by the miracles we perform or the great talks that we give. He says they'll know that by your love. Mm-hmm. So this is critical. And then God only in one place defines himself with one word. There's a lot of different names for God: Jehovah Jireh, Jehovah Shalom. But he says, but God is love. That's not one of his names, but he defines himself as love. So for me, gentlemen, this is critical for us. And if you're going to lead, you have to be able to lead people in love.
I know for me specifically that some, and I think it's important to explain that it doesn't have to be from a vaulted level. You don't have to be the boss of a business. You don't have to. I mean, you can lead and shepherd the people around you by simply taking it. A little bit of time just to invest in how they're doing. I mean, you can start there and take those little baby steps, because the type of leadership that Christ promoted when he was on this earth. And I know, we're currently in a series where we're talking about becoming more like Jesus and doing things that are more like Jesus. It was from a place of servanthood. I mean, even his inception in this world, at least as man, started from him taking the humble position of becoming man. And I mean, and if we can't do that, then, I don't know how you lead without looking outward to the people that are around you. I don't know how you do it. Just purely inward. So,
but there are people who do it.
Yeah,
they're very much self-absorbed and very much just cognizant of their own needs. A lot of broken people in leadership and who need healing. I'm not talking about diabolical, malicious people, but broken people. And we have to, and maybe at some point, guys, we'll talk about that. One of the things that as leaders, we have to stay healthy, stay whole, keep our lives out of the trap of resentment so that we can lead with love.
Mhm.
And that's hard work. And it takes some intentionality in order to do that.
And I agree with you, Bishop. You mentioned God is love, and we hit that term so many times. And verses that stick out to me right now as we're talking is John 3:16 and Ephesians 1:4. And as it talks about, for God so loved the world, he gave his one and only son so that those who believe in him should not perish, but have everlasting life, a whole life. And so when I think about that, and we're called to follow the one, follow Christ in all that we do, that means we should lead with love first and foremost, because the heart of God, right, as Christians, as believers in his son, and want to pretty much carry on, his assignment, or as I read in one of my devotionals, finish the Lord's work here on earth, right? Finish the Lord's business here on earth. We can't finish that business if we don't have love within our heart, if we're not speaking from a heart of love, right? And so I just think that's so powerful in terms of becoming a whole person. You can't be whole if you don't have love. And so I just think that that's powerful in that as a leader in what you're saying, God is love. I think that's essential to being whole and to following the footsteps of Christ as leaders, that we must lead with love. So that's good.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
Neil, I think that's extremely interesting. And it took me a while to really understand this verse. Where it tells us that, perfect love casts out fear. But when I think about that, especially in regards to leadership, the thing that touches my heart is that when you talk about broken people, Bishop, when you talk about the idea of people leading out of their brokenness or leading out of their hurt, I think a lot of those are places of fear that they've allowed fear to grow up, and that's what keeps them in that stronghold of brokenness. Mm-hmm. And so you would then think that, according to what the word says, if love seeps into their life, those fears will then be able to be broken down. They'll be able to view and see those insecurities, know what to do with those insecurities as far as taking it to the right person or getting it addressed. And then I believe their life begins to be transformed, and then they can lead out of that place. Mm-hmm. Would you agree with that? Or?
Well, think about it, brothers. Just think about how the times that you've received love, somebody loved you, but you weren't fully willing to accept that love or embrace it. And love carries with it the responsibility of truth. Mm-hmm. And it's only when the two work together that love really can function. If I say I love you and you're my friend, and you really messing up, and I won't say anything to you, that's not love. Mm-hmm. And then if I do share my heart, we're friends now. I'm not just a stranger, but we're friends, we're tight. And I do share my heart with you, but you're unwilling to see the area of failure, flaw, fault, sin, whatever it is. Then if you can't embrace that, remember what Jesus said, you'll know the truth will make you free. Mm-hmm. So if I love you, but then you won't embrace truth, it will keep you in bondage. Mm-hmm. Fear, any of the number of things that we've already hit on remain there. And we know a lot of times for men, it can be really hard for us to face our own truth, become self-aware, see our manipulative ways, and be able to get healed of that. Because you can't, if I won't go to the doctor, take the prescription, change my diet, I ain't gonna get healed. You know what I'm saying? So if you don't take the medicine, you can't get healed. And so you can be around love, but if you can't handle the truth that comes with that, then you won't be able to get out of where you're in. And a lot of leaders find themselves there.
Mm. So, Bishop, we're going to ask another question as far as, because leading with love, I'm sure you can attest to it. It's never easy sometimes, and I'm sure you've experienced over your 30 years of pastoring, you've faced challenges or barriers. Could you speak to those barriers in terms of what you've experienced in this walk?
It's whatever it is, I've experienced it. Everything from I've been sued for millions of dollars by people that I've helped. The lawsuit didn't go anywhere, but they tried. I've been betrayed. Just about anything that you can think of has happened. So, and I started this thing at 13 in the ministry. So that's been about 49, 48 years ago. And our church has been going 31, going on 32 years. But what I've learned, Neil, is that I could list all the stuff that people have done to me, but it doesn't even nearly compare to my own sin and what I've been forgiven for. So I constantly have to address my perspective and say, you know what? People may have sinned against me, but even when they did, they weren't all wrong. I was probably wrong in there too somewhere. I mean, if you look long enough, I mean, it's, I'm sure I was complicit in some of that, but Jesus forgave me and he did no wrong at all. And I sinned against him and he forgave me. He did nothing but love me, And so with that, I think that's helped me some to keep my heart right. The other thing is too, I want to be able to influence people and I want God to be pleased. So I've never been sinned against or hurt in such a way that it would make me want to give up my place with God or give up my place in touching others. And so those are the thoughts that I constantly think. So I keep my accounts short. I deal with resentment quickly. I forgive fast, because one thing you learn is the longer you wait to forgive, the harder it gets. And so those are some of the things that I just try to do. And I don't get it right every time. Thank God for grace and forgiveness and mercy. But my heart is to try to walk in love with everybody that I can. And if it really comes down to it, and Dre's probably heard me say this since he was 9 or 10 years old. You're not gonna make me miss heaven. Ain't nobody that important. You're not gonna make me lose my relationship with God. I don't care who you are. And that if it comes down to that, and I don't even like you that much, but I'm still not gonna let you become so important that you separate me from God. I gotta love you, but I ain't gotta like you. I don't have to be your friend. I have to hang with you, but I can't have any resentment in my heart. So I know that's kind of a long answer, but I think it kind of deserves that, because like Neil's opening statement was, this ain't easy. This is hard. And addressing why it's hard, I think is important.
I agree.
I had a follow-up question to that. And I know this is what I thought about, because you mentioned how long you've been, called to ministry. And lately we've been hearing about, pastors committing suicide and going through all sorts of issues. How important is mental health to a pastor? Because I know, being a pastor for a couple of years myself, sometimes you can feel like okay, because I think some people feel like pastors can't get hurt. You mentioned being sued by people that you had done so much for, being hurt. And a lot of people feel like, okay, well, pastors, you just got to be tough skinned and this is what you're supposed to, suck it up, buttercup, because you signed up for this. Like, how important is your mental health or therapy for a pastor? Like, how important is that, would you say?
So Corey, you said so for 2 years, you've been kind of serving in that pastoral role. Out of those 2 years, how many times did you feel like these people are going to drive me crazy?
Every single day.
So you can imagine in 32 years, how many times I've said, these folks gonna get me, Lord. They gonna send me straight to the insane asylum. So what I realize is how critical my mental health is. And so I will employ any godly means. So if that means vacation, if it means a Sabbath day every week, if it means going away with my wife for 2 or 3 weeks, if it means seeing a counselor or a therapist or a coach, I'll do it. I'll do it all. So I'm always doing the most when it comes to this idea of mental health. And as I've gotten older, I've become more comfortable with my own flaws and weaknesses and the need for me to be honest with God and find help for those things. And the younger you decide to make sure you stay in a good, healthy place mentally, and you understand that mental and emotional health is no more condemning than physical. Nobody feels guilty because they got a cold.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? No, I can't tell nobody that I had to go to the doctor. They'll think I lost my faith. And I mean, I guess there are some churches that may be the issue, but most of us that, we can say we went to the doctor and ain't nobody tripping. But if we say we went to see a psychiatrist, then, oh, shoot, Pastor losing it. Well, it's still health.
Mhm.
All areas of our lives can become unhealthy at times for whatever reasons. So the short answer to your question is that mental health is important because it is a sign of love for yourself.
Mhm.
Jesus said, love your neighbor as
Mhm.
yourself. And so the way some people love themselves, their neighbor is in deep trouble. Because if they don't love their neighbor any more than they love themselves, they got to be. So, and of course, you have to guard yourself against narcissism and really getting so caught up in you and all that. We get that, but that's usually not our issue as men of God. Our issue is we serve and work so hard that we forget that we got to stop at times for ourselves. There's a reason on the plane that they say before you put a mask on your child, put a mask on yourself. That used to seem so so selfish to me. I realized, well, what good is it for mom if she put a mask on the baby, then she passes out? She's no good to help the child. So you got to get yourself right first so you can get others right.
Yeah, I second everything you just said. You just really spoke my language as we're talking about mental health, and then tied in love with it. Exactly what you just said is something that I was going to make mention of, is that loving yourself. I think as a child of God, we should make it a point to love on ourselves in a way where we remain healthy and strong, not just spiritually, but mentally, emotionally, physically. All of that equals up to our wholeness in the kingdom, I believe. And so I just think that taking time out, and focusing on, and I have this in my life, that I've learned that those key disciplines or practices that has shaped my life up until this point, because in those disciplines and practices is my prayer life, my study routine, my everything that encompasses what I am to do to maintain or sustain a level of healthy awareness, healthy boundaries, everything that encompasses what I am to do to maintain that sort of stewardship on this journey to reaching and teaching and helping others along my way. And so you make some great points that mental health tying into love is so key. How can you love on yourself if you're conforming out here in this world and you're just completely off track to what God is trying to show you? If you're loving yourself, you're hearing God. You're focusing on the things that's so essential to your overall growth every day that you awaken to his precious thoughts. So
absolutely.
That's my take.
Absolutely.
To that, as a pastor, right? You're a leader, so people are looking at your approach to how you handle yourself, because you're mentoring somebody, you're discipling somebody. So they're gonna say, "Oh, my bishop, that's what he used to do." So like that's how these unhealthy habits come. Because some pastors, like, man, you didn't take care of their health, didn't take time for them or their families, and so you end up replicating yourself, and you got these people after you who think this is the idea of ministry, and then they're not effective because of it, because they've had a bad example, because it wasn't told to them. So
yeah, very true.
I
The leader gives permission to others to be okay with doing what they need to do just by what they do.
Yeah, I this kind of bringing all that together, I think it makes sense, because I think when I think about my worst days or some of my low days compared to some of my highs, on my low days, my interactions with people are usually not up to speed. They're just not part. I go inward, right? We talk about inward versus outward. Versus on my high days, I'm feeling great. I've addressed things that need to be addressed in my own life. I've spent my time with God. I've taken the things I need to be taken to him. So then when I interact with you, I look just like Christ because I've got everything in order I need to be. Yeah. And so now I can bear different things with you. I can engage in conversations with you to help you and shepherd you and do different things, whether we're on the same level or there's a vaulted platform. Like that, when we are straight, we can then help the other person, like you said, going back to the example of the airplane and putting your mask on. Like when you're in good condition, you're just a plus to someone else who's in need. So yeah.
This question just popped in my mind, and it's going to go along with the closing out this podcast today. I just want to ask you, Bishop, like your younger self, like if you could see yourself today, what advice would you give yourself that you didn't learn at a younger age, but now that you're wiser and you've learned a lot and now inspiring others, what advice would you have given yourself?
Wow, that's a really deep question. They teach us in leadership coaching, when you're coaching somebody, the key is to ask good questions. When you ask a question and the person looks up like this, that means they stretch it way back in the back of their cerebral to try to come up with an answer, bro. And Neil made me try to go way back in my cerebral treasures to try to answer this question. And it's a good one. So I'll tell you 2 or 3 things. I've learned the value of friendship. I think I knew it then, but I'm not sure. I think I'd probably tell myself, look, you think you know a little something about friendship, but let me tell you, you're gonna need your friends. Find you some guys who will tell you the truth about yourself and love you all the way, who will hang with you, stick with you, love you, and do not go into a shell. That's one of the things I would tell my younger self. Second thing I'd probably tell my younger self is that, bro, conflict is not as bad as you think it is. If you keep avoiding it, you only create other issues. So learn how to handle conflict in a healthy way. You'll be okay. I promise you. I'm here. That's the sign. You'll be okay. Just handle the conflict, because you only create other conflicts internally and externally if you don't do that. Then I think I'd tell my younger self, spend quality time with your kids. Make that the highest priority in your life. We tend to, those of us who love our wives, we tend to make time with them, and they tend to ask for it and mandate it even. So, but our kids sometimes don't have the power to do that. Kids can say, well, you're going to spend the night with me whether you want to or not. Kids don't roll out like that. Not unless they want to be in timeout. So I would tell my younger self, plan times with all your sons, find something that each of them and your daughter likes, and make sure you dedicate a consistent time to that. And when they become teenagers, don't back off of that. Stay on that all the way through to their young adult years. So those are 3 things I think I would tell my younger self. Some things I wouldn't, because I think I knew those things, but I would want to make sure my younger self knows how important love is. That love is critical, and don't let yourself get caught up in resentment. I tell my younger self, look, your dad might have done some things that he's not proud of, and might have created some real pain for you, but you need to get over that. You need to ask God to help you forgive and move on, because you're just going to slow yourself down if you don't get past some of the things that have hit you, that have hurt your heart, discouraged you. You gotta let it go. And I think that would be my final words to my younger self is, let stuff go quick. Don't hold on to it. Love your way out of wherever you are.
That's powerful. I'm sorry, guys. I just have to follow up with one other thing, because it's making me think about, when I was younger, that no one ever talked to me about like I was in church, but when it comes to talking about biblical love, like the talk around biblical love to a youth or a child is not something that's the norm in a sense, right? Because I do believe that if we were coached or not coached, but led in that way at a younger age, then we will gain a greater understanding of who God is. And so I just think like at a younger age, that's something that I was missing. So why do you think that's the case where, of course we don't hear it in schools or around in society much, but why do you think that's the case? And what difference do you think it will make if at a younger age we had that talk about biblical love?
I think I'll be specific and talk about that for males, because I think sisters may get more talk about love because socially it's more acceptable for them to talk about love. It's also more socially acceptable for them to love each other, and there's nothing perverted about it. But for sister to love a sister, and she ain't trying to be with her, but she loves her and she loves hanging with her and being her friend and all those things. For men, I think we struggle a little bit with the relationship with other men and being close to other men. And I think it happens because we haven't had men to teach us what real love is. And it becomes a critical issue because some things are better caught than taught. So I might read the book about it, but what I really need is to see an example of it. And a lot of our men, especially men of color, struggle with some things, not because they're less spiritual than their European counterparts, but because they have not had the template in their house to look at 24 hours a day. And it becomes critical for us as men of God to teach other men, younger men, what it means to love, to have biblical love, to have an agape love, not eros, not phileo, but have an agape love that says, I just love you because you're there. You don't have to do nothing to me. I'm not trying to manipulate you. But I care about you and I want to see you be your very best. That kind of example of love, I think, Neil, is life-changing. And I think the fact that we don't see the examples of that on a regular basis really cripple us in our ability then to love and make it hard for us then to pass that on to our children. And I think that's one of the things that men like you all have to do is lift up this thing of how do we truly love each other, and what does that really mean anyway? What does that mean? Because a lot of guys don't know anything about love outside of sex or outside of romance. And that's all, and then they fail at that because that ain't real love. So they fail at the romance side because they're employing a wrong definition of love. So to come back to a biblical definition of agape love, unconditional love, then I think is life-changing, because that's how Jesus loved us. It was an unconditional love. So I know that opens up a whole other world of discussion. I know, guys, and maybe we'll talk about it again. But I think it's really important that we catch this love thing, and that we as leaders really set an example for people so they can see us loving people, and we are honest with people when we struggle to love. It's not always easy. There are certain people that are harder for me to love than other people. And I know that there's certain people that push all my buttons, and I know they do. And I have to learn how to ask the Lord to grace me with what I need to be able to handle those folks. So anyway, so that's my take, guys, on it. I think it's important. I think you got to lead with love. I think it makes all the difference in the world.
Absolutely.
Well, Bishop, thank you for spending some time with us tonight. It was good. It was healthy. It felt wonderful. And I just want to thank those of you for tuning in with us tonight. whether it's your first time, your second time, whatever that may be. We just hope that you come back. Again, this is the Brothers Rising Up Hill podcast, where we talk Christian manhood, the intermingling of faith and pop culture, and of course, purity of heart, mind, soul, body, and so forth. Bishop, thank you again, good sir.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you all. Keep up the good work, you all. The Lord is using you in a powerful way. And people that are following and listening to you are getting something that's authentic. And now more than ever before, we need something that's real, not something that's phony. And so you brothers keep doing what you're doing. Thank you.